Hashem says to Moshe, Daber o b'nei Yisrael, v'yikchu li truma. They shall take for me a donation. Me'es kol ish asher yidvenu libo tikhu es truvati. From every man whose heart so inclines him, you should take the truma. Now, the first thing here is that we are about to start. We're going into the building of the Mishkan. We're going into the building of the Mishkan. And you're going to find over here 5 parshas that describe the building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And that begs a question, which is what? Begs a couple of questions. Anybody got an idea? That should beg a couple of questions. 5 parshas now, which for the most part are going to be talking about the Mishkan, how it was built, the structure, the equipment, well, all the nuts and bolts of the Mishkan, which is what? What's the first question that should come to mind?
We don't even use it anymore.
We don't even use it anymore. We don't have a Mishkan anymore. Of all the things, you have some laws of the Torah, like certain laws of Shabbos, which is one sentence in the Torah, and then we get a whole tractate out of it, or a whole chapter out of it. You have certain laws of certain of the Nida laws, which is one short statement in the Torah, and from that there's a whole. Here you got 5 parshas that go into all the details of the Mishkan. Just every little detail, and at the end of the day, not only we don't use it anymore, we don't have it anymore. And at the time that it was built, there was only certain people who built it. Why is the Torah going into such elaborate detail of the Mishkan? Whereas the creation of the world was all of 31 psukim. How do you like that? The creation of the world, it means I'll get to you one second, with trillions of stars and with animals and sea creatures and everything you could possibly imagine. The whole thing is 31 psukim. And then you get to the Mishkan, and all of a sudden you got more, and that's going to tell you the hides and the materials and the gold and how they paint, how they made it. Why? What do you say?
It's probably like a deeper meaning behind it.
Yes, there is a deeper meaning behind it. Yes, that is always a safe good. It's always a safe. It's always a safe. You know, it's like no, you're absolutely correct. It's like sometimes people say, "Oh, why do we have to do so?" What's it? Because Hashem said so. Invoke Hashem, you're always safe. My son was about 3 years old. A little Pitzel, my oldest son was about 3 years old, and he did something at the time. I just looked at him. I said, "Do you want to potch?" And he looked at me and goes, "You can't potch me." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Hashem doesn't let." All of a sudden he's religious. All of a sudden he's going from on me. Hashem doesn't let. So you're right. There is something much deeper here. There's something much deeper here. Absolutely correct. And that is that the world, the entire purpose of the world is obviously to get to the Torah. I mean, the creation of the world is wonderful. It's a beautiful thing, and there are all sorts of animals in the world, and all sorts of creatures in the world, and sea creatures. But what are they there for? The entire world, as we know it, the entire world exists for the sake of Torah. It's all for the sake of Torah. Where was the Mishkan? Is called the Mishkan Ha'edus. They will see the Torah later on called the tabernacle, literally, of testimony. What is the testimony? What is the edus? The edus is the Torah. The Torah is the testimony. Torah is the bond between us and God. When you get married, you can give your wife a ksuba. The ksuba is the document that says what, Jeremy?
Half is hers.
Half is hers? No, all of it's hers. You're half right. It's all hers. Right? The ksuba is your obligations, or something. People get these ksubas with flowers on them. You ever walk in those? You got flowers and a nice pretty design, and they put it up on the wall. It's basically like putting your mortgage on the wall with flowers around it. Wow, what a beautiful mortgage! Yeah. Wow, nice rainbow over there. That's what a ksuba is. A ksuba is a legal document. The legal document, metaphorically, God's the husband, we're the wife. That says that in Shir Hashirim. What's the ksuba between us? What's the document? Except that this one works in the opposite direction. It's the one that talks about our obligations. So the Mishkan is the Mishkan Edus in a certain way. Again, your first name is?
Me. My first name.
Your first name?
David.
David, beautiful name, by the way. I think that's ranked. That's ranked as like the number one name in all Hebrew names. It could be a coincidence, but I think so. I think it's one. It occupies 1, 2, and 3 top 3 places. Like David said, the ultimate purpose here is to get to the Mishkan. That means the creation is a backdrop. Not only that, later on we're going to see. Take a look at the next pasuk for a second. V'zos haTruma. We're going to come back to this. V'zos haTruma asher tichlu meitam. This is what you're going to take from the Jewish people: zahav v'kesef and choshes, gold, silver, and copper. Our approach. I'll tell you a concept which many commentaries mention. This concept. It's a little bit abstract, but if you think about it, we think there's gold in the world. God created gold. It says that at Maaseh Bereshis, at the creation of the world, it says God created gold. And we think, well, there's gold in the world, and they took gold and used some of that gold for the Mishkan. Right? There's gold. So well, let's take some gold. It's what comes first, the chicken or the gold. That means gold was needed for the Mishkan. That's why God created gold. The leftover gold happens to be in Fort Knox and in the rest of the world. I mean, it wasn't that it happens to be there's gold here and therefore we'll use some for the Mishkan. Gold was created for the Mishkan. Now there happens to be some gold left. There's some in what do you call it, by the Incas and the Aztecs. Then who came down there? Then the Spaniards came down and slaughtered them, which was okay for gold. Then everything's justified. And there's gold in South Africa. There's gold all over the world. There's gold in my pockets, and everywhere there's gold. That's the excess gold. That's the gold that's the overflow. The purpose of the gold was for the Mishkan. At a really abstract level, why do you have to honor your parents? Why do you have parents? So we think that you have parents, therefore you have to honor them. It's the opposite. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a Torah that says you have to honor your parents. Well, that's practically not feasible unless you have parents. Therefore you have parents. That means the purpose of the world is to fulfill the Torah, not that the Torah has to match the world. Oh, well, you got parents, now you got to honor them. No, to the contrary, there's a mitzvah to honor parents. Well, the only way that could happen is if you have parents. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates a concept called parents. That's the cause and effect. Yeah.
I don't know why, but it just like the golden calf came to mind with the gold situation. Gold was created, but also like it was used for that.
Anything could be misused. Anything could be misused. Cocaine could be misused also. Right? It has practical uses. They put it in Coca-Cola. What are you laughing at? Coca-Cola had cocaine. I don't know if it still does, but it had Mirinda. By the way, Mirinda in Israel. Did you see the orange drink Mirinda? You ever see that? You know that Mirinda in Israel actually had PCP in it. It had PCP. It was my favorite drink. It had PCP in it, and it actually said on the label, Pei Yud, Samach Yud, Pei Yud, which spells PCP. And in the United States, the drink was illegal, and in Israel, they were selling Mirinda with PCP. And eventually, they took it. They stopped. So I'm protesting. I drink something else now. But they actually had PCP. No, sorry, I'm not kidding you. You're laughing. I'm not kidding you. They had PCP in it. So
meth to war vets.
What's that?
Yeah, they used to give meth to war vets in Korea.
Meth to war vets.
Like soldiers in Korea that were fighting.
They gave the meth.
Yeah.
What's meth?
Like methamphetamines. It's like a hard
They gave it
drug.
to the Nazis too.
Yeah, the Germans gave
Yeah.
You gave to what?
They gave it to the Nazis also.
It's like
That's why they did
coke. It's like coke.
Oh, put what? It pumps you up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the soldiers.
Okay, so I told you there. Maybe we should give it to guys in Ohr Somayach. Get you to shear on time. 11 o'clock math. If you're late, you don't get. If you're late, you don't get any. What's the problem? The point is, everything in the world has a positive use. Now, let's go back for a second. So the Mishkan, and look, at a deeper level, this is what David was saying earlier. At a deeper level, there is a concept of everything still existing. That means the spiritual Mishkan still exists. You know that when it says, if you read the Korban, let's say you want to bring a sacrifice nowadays. You can't bring offerings, right? Can't bring a sacrifice. Let's say I accidentally messed up. I walked into a room on Shabbos. Oops, I flicked the light switch. Now, at the time of the Beis Hamikdash, you would have to bring a korban chatas. You'd have to bring a sin offering. Nowadays, we just go, oh, well, never, okay, I'm just going to go sit down and eat some chalt. At a certain point, the person gets to the point where, wow, I really shouldn't be doing that. I'd like to atone for that. Okay, obviously, you could atone by just committing to learn the halachas better. And you could atone by giving a little bit of tzedakah. And you could atone just by feeling bad. All of that is an atonement. But let's say I want to do the absolute prescribed atonement for that sin of desecrating Shabbos. What's the prescribed atonement time to Beis Hamikdash? You bring a sin offering. You actually bring a korban to the Beis Hamikdash. You go marching up there with your sheep. There's a Kohen waiting for you. Light switch again, Sam. Or maybe, and he didn't just walk in and give him the sheep. He gave you a little bit of a musher schmooze. If it was important to you, you would have taped it down before Shabbos. If it was important to you, you would have taken a precaution. The coin was there to give you a little bit of musser. Okay, so I want to atone. How do you atone for it? So you'd say, open the Torah, and in the siddur it's printed, the section of the korban of the chatas. And you could actually say that. And if you say it, the more you understand it, the Gemara says it's as if you've offered a chatas in the base. You brought an atonement in the base. You brought a korban. So we could do something which is it simulates the actual physical thing that should have been done. Well, if you study the section of the Mishkan here, by the way, the commentators that we're going to be learning next week. The week we're going to be reading Parshat Zohar, which talks about the mitzvah to annihilate Amalek. So that we can't do that nowadays, but if you study it and you read it in the Torah and you study it, then there's a certain connection to the actual mitzvah of annihilating Amalek. Similarly, if we study the building of the Mishkan, where the central focus of the Mishkan is obviously the Torah, because the Aron Kodesh, which had the Torah and it goes into the Holy of Holies. So then it's to a certain extent as if we've built the Mishkan. We've participated in the Mishkan and we've certainly absorbed the spiritual rays that come down from whatever those spiritual rays are. By studying it, then we absorb that. That's what the Mefarshim say. Okay, now, take a look at that first pasuk again. And right off the bat, you should have a problem. They should take for me a donation. Do any of you have grandparents who were European? I remember my Zaidi. Do you have grandparents who remember my Zaidi saying, take for me a cup of tea. Take to me a cup of tea. It's often a translation from the Yiddish. They translated it like in Israel. They sometimes translate from the Hebrew to the English to the Hebrew, which certainly makes for some good entertainment, because it doesn't translate straight. So, for example, they'd say, take to me an orange, or take to me a banana. And in spoken English, we say, bring me or give me a banana, not take to me a banana. Why does the Torah say, the yichuli truma, they shall take for me a truma? Number one. Number two, why does this section, and then it's going to go through all of the various materials that had to be donated to the Beis Hamikdash. And number two, why does this parsha follow the previous parsha, where the Jewish people at Har Sinai, in the end of the previous parsha, they say, Nasa v'nishma. We will do and we will listen. Which itself begs a question, because what should the order be? Nasa v'nishma v'nasa. No. The Jewish people show their loyalty to God. Nasa will do it. V'nishma, then we'll try to understand it. But first there's the commitment. At a deeper level, Nasa is referring to the neshama before it came down. Our neshamas, before they came down, were accessing the Torah when the Torah existed in the spiritual realm. Nasa means that, referring to what was happening up there. V'nishma means down here, we're going to connect up our physical existence to what our neshama already has accessed. That's Nasa v'nishma. But why does after Nasa v'nishma, which the plain meaning is the simple meaning that we'll do it, and then we'll try to understand it. But first, commitment. First is commitment. And then the Torah follows with this. Why? Why does the Torah follow with this? Take the yichuli truma. Why does that follow Nasa v'nishma?
Probably to emphasize the importance of it. It's to say give perhaps could leave room to, do I really want to? Should I take? Take means like do it without any.
That's not Seven Ishma. So why do they follow now with the building of the Mishkan?
That's doing.
The answer is, what indicates truest commitment, gentlemen? We've mentioned this many times before.
Action.
Which action specifically? Reach, what? Giving money. That's right. That's the action of putting your hand in your wallet and taking something out and giving it to somebody else. That shows you're playing for keeps. Put your money where your religion is. That shows you're in it for keeps. So it's like the rabbi gets up in the shul. He says, ladies and gentlemen, I have some good news and some bad news. He says, we're going to be building, we have to build an extension to our shul. The good news is we already have the money. The bad news is it's in your pockets. So to give is not easy. Because this guy gets a call from the Jewish United Fund, calls up this lawyer, says, Goldstein, our records show that you're making upwards of $800,000 a year, and we haven't gotten a donation from you. So Goldstein says, do your records also show that my sister's a widow living alone raising 3 children? Do your records also show that my brother's a disabled Vietnam vet? Do your records also show that my mother's living on her own? And if they can't get a dime out of me, what makes you think you will? So you're trying to get people to give money over here. V'yichlu li truma. So the first thing is v'yichlu li truma means that people should get other people to give. V'yichlu, part of the mitzvah of tzedakah is not only that you give, it's that you want other people to give as well. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says when it comes to tzedakah, there are different attitudes. One person has an attitude, I want to give and I want other people to give. Others have an attitude, I want to give, I don't want anybody else to give. Some people say, I don't want to give, I do want everybody else to give. And the worst attitude, obviously, is, I don't want to give and I don't want anybody else should give. There are 4 levels of tzedakah. The question is, why would somebody have an attitude, I want to give, but I don't want anybody else should give? Why would you have that attitude?
They want all the credit.
They want all the credit. That means that if every people are donating, you don't know exactly, what's the motivation here? So the Torah comes along and the Torah says, well, the best motivation is that you're really into it with your heart. What's the indication that your heart is into it? That not only you want to give, I want other people to give as well. If I wanted to give on my own, so then that means I'm in it for my ego. By the way, if you give because you want credit, that's also good. That's also good. The Gemara says somebody who gives with ulterior motivation is a tzaddik. Just give. But there's a higher level. The higher level is that you want everybody to give, that your heart is in, that your ego is not mixed in over here. Okay. So now the Torah says, V'yichlu li truma. They shall take for me a truma. Why that terminology? V'yichlu li truma. They shall take for me a truma. Why that's strange? Why not they should give to me a truma? Obviously, what's the answer, obviously? We learned this in the Gemara and Kedushin. It's actually rooted in the Gemara and Kedushin. If a woman goes up to a prominent man and gives him money for the sake of him being mekadesh her, what's the halacha? If he's a prominent man, then the halacha is she could give him money as long as he says, you are mikudeshes to me through my receiving the money from you. Why? Because he's giving her the pleasure of him having received it, because he's a prominent individual. When you give to God, who's giving to whom? Sometimes in life, giving is very deceptive. I've seen this over and over. You know where you're going to find this? You have women, a woman calls up her friend to come for Shabbos. If God invites the family for Shabbos, she says, oh, what can I bring? What's her standard answer? Just bring yourselves. Oh no, maybe I could bring the gefilte fish. Maybe I could bring the fish. Maybe I could bring the dips. Maybe I could bring the liver. Most women don't want or need help in their own kitchen. To the contrary, I'm hosting. Women host. They would like the compliments. They're normal. They're human, and they're entitled to it. You don't want to share it with, and not only that, it implies I couldn't do it on my own. especially when somebody brings something and the woman, the hostess's husband, is all gaga over that thing, over what the other lady writes. Oh, you got to get that recipe, Oh, he'll hear about it later, boy. Oh, he'll get the recipe, all right. He better find out the recipe for tuna fish because that's what he's going to be eating for a while. So now she says eventually, and what she does is she allows her to bring the chopped liver or something. Who's the real giver over here? Who's the real giver over here? The real giver is the one, and it's a very hard form of giving because nobody knows it. The only one who knows it about it is Hashem. It's a very hard form of giving. The real giver over here is the one who happens to be doing the act of taking. That's the real giver. The giver of the liver is not the giver. Right? The one who's receiving it is the one who is actually the giver, because she's allowing her to feel good about bringing it to the house. This is a very important concept in life. Sometimes allowing somebody, I remember when my oldest son was about 3 or 4 years old, and I had to go outside to build the sukkah. It was a hot day in Yerushalayim, and I was irritated, and I was trying to put 2 panels together. And my wife thought that it would be a good idea if he'd come out and help me. And so he came out with his plastic hammer, and he was helping me. At a certain point, I asked him if maybe he wants to go in and help mommy in the kitchen. Because now, when he's helping daddy, who's really the giver over here? Daddy's the giver. I'm allowing him. He feels good about. Sometimes in life, to allow people to feel good, that's the real act of giving. And it means you might be on the receiving end of something, but that becomes the act of giving. When you give to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's nothing we could give to God. How can you give anything to God? It all belongs to God. How can you give anything to God? The answer is, you have got the privilege of giving to God. You've got the honor and the privilege of giving to God. That makes you a taker. The yikhu li truma. By giving to God, you're actually taking. You're taking the honor and the distinction and the privilege of giving to God. And not only that, later on, because you give it, you're going to get reward for it, for doing what you were told to do. Therefore, he uses an expression, the yikhu li truma. Then it says, Me'esh kol isha sher yidvenu libo tikhu es trumasi. From any man whose heart so inclines him, you shall take the truma. Now, what is the truma? Let's see the materials. V'zos ha-truma asher tikhu me'itam. Zahav, v'chesef v'nechoshes. Gold, silver, copper. Utcheles v'argamon, different types of colored wools. V'tolas shoni. V'sheish v'izim. Tolas shoni is, how does he translate it? Tolas shoni, vishesh, scarlet wool, linen, and goat hair. Right, scarlet wool. Tolas shoni is some sort of scarlet wool. Now, it's a very, very, apparently it's a very, very, very fancy, high-end type of material. What is it called, though? It's an interesting name. What's a tolas? What's a tolas? Tolas is a worm. Tolas is like a silk, like I guess what we call a silkworm nowadays. Right? There's something called a silkworm. There's a tolas shani. So I saw one of the Farshim say, why, that's a funny name to call a piece of material. So apparently this material, when you wore it, you felt pretty good about yourself. You felt pretty good about, it's some fancy threads. And so what are you supposed to keep in mind? That it comes from a worm, or that we come from, ultimately we're going to end up as worm. Don't let it go to your head. That's the idea. I told you, there's this guy gives his wife a mink. A mink coat, and the wife just goes, "Wow, I mean, how could such a beautiful mink come from such a low sneaking creature?" My husband says, "Listen, I don't ask for thanks, but you don't have to insult me." Ding, coin drop. Ve'oros elim me'odamim, ve'oros techoshim ve'atzei shitim keshe wood. Okay, then it goes through a whole list of materials. Now, you'll notice that the first thing that the Torah requires is the heart. And you have a problem over here. Because later on, we're going to see that before we get to the equipment, where is it? You're going to have the people who get involved with the job. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to send certain people to get involved with the job of building the Mishkan. One of them is going to be Betzalel. And Betzalel, who is all of 13 years old, Betzalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, he is going to be in charge of the building. He's going to be the foreman for the building and for the project, the main architect, 13 years old. And it's interesting because he is the grandson of Hur. What happened to Hur? Hur was killed at the Egel, at the golden calf, when he protested against the people. It's his grandson who's going to be building the Mishkan. So here you have a fundamental dispute among the commentaries. Is the Mishkan, was it something that was going to be built anyway? Or is the Mishkan only a response to the sin of the golden calf? That is a machlokas among the Rishonim. That means, according to some of the commentaries, the Mishkan was going to be built all along. That was in the plans all along. There's another approach that says no. The concentration of God's presence was going to be throughout the Jewish people. It was going to spread over the entire Jewish people. Once they sinned at the golden calf, the concentration of God's presence, what we call the Shekhinah, the Hashras HaShekhinah, is only in the Mishkan. It was concentrated as a backlash, as a response to the sin of the golden calf. So there are different opinions on that. There are different opinions among the Farshim, whether that was a Lechatchila or B'diavad. Now look at Rashi for a second. Look at the very first Rashi on the page, right column. The Yikhuli Truma, says Rashi, Li Lishmi. What do those words mean? They shall take for me a Truma. What does Lishmi mean? Literally for my name. But we even use that expression to do the mitzvah, Lishma. What does Lishma mean?
For its sake.
What's that?
For itself.
For itself, for the sake, for the ultimate way of doing the mitzvahs without any thought of a personal gain, personal benefit, honor, whatever it is. Do the mitzvah Lishma. So the Torah says, V'ikhu li truma li lishmi. Now, watch this. What is the result of building the Mishkan going to be? That the Shekhinah is going to dwell in the Mishkan, to be concentrated in the Mishkan. Now that's a pretty high motivation, isn't it? To build a Mishkan so that Hashem puts His Shekhinah in the Mishkan, right? That's pretty high motivation. There's one level higher. Don't think about that. Don't think about what the results are going to be. Just do it for one reason. Why? Because Hashem said to build a Mishkan. And by the way, the donation over here was particularly difficult because they weren't even told why they're donating it. First, we start donating it. Give me your money, guys.
Okay.
I'm collecting money. Oh, yeah? What's your free? You're like, what for? The first thing I'd ask is, what for? Then I'd say no. But first I want to know what you're collecting for. No, here they're told, okay, take a donation, tell them to give a truma. And this is what you should give. And everybody start giving. Let's start giving. What are we doing this for? I'll tell you. First, give me your money. Now I'm going to tell you we're going to build a Mishkan. Okay? Now, there's a problem here. Because the Mishkan was built, when you donate money to the yeshiva, the yeshiva collects money. People collect money. You donate to the yeshiva. Where does the money go to? Guy writes out a check to the yeshiva. Where does the money go?
Rabbi Kaplan.
We hope. All right, we hope. But where does the money usually go? It goes right into a bank account. And from that bank account, they write out checks on the yeshiva's expenses. My salary, the food in the lunchroom, my salary, the tissues over there in the other room, my salary. That's what they write out. They write out checks with. When you put it all into a bank account, they write out checks. But you don't see, what's the difference? It doesn't matter to them if you pay with a credit card or with a check or with cash. It doesn't make a difference. It all goes into one pile. And then checks are written out. Now here is a lot different. Whoa. We're talking about raw materials here. You're donating raw materials at Beis Hamikdash. There's a lot of different uses for it. So let's say you give some gold. And I say to you, okay, Jeremy, where do you want your gold to go? You want your gold to go on the outside wall where they paint the fence they coat it with gold? Or maybe you want your gold to go on the Aron Kodesh itself, or to be one of the wings of the Kruvim. I know if I give gold to the Beis Hamikdash, it's like sitting at the table. I'll take a wing. I'll have a wing, please. But no, we're going to use it. I don't want my gold on the outside. I want my gold right over there. Everybody who gives donations to the yeshiva thinks that their money is what helped me to put food on the table for my children. Could be, or it could be that their money is what is being used for tablecloths right now on Shabbos in the lunchroom. Now, which one do you want your money to go for? So the gold, how do you determine? Whose gold? What's going to be random? Just take a bunch of gold? Even that is predetermined by B'Tzalel, who was given the wisdom to be able to see the person donating it, Yidvenu Libo, what's in your heart. He could tell in your heart what your motivation is. Your motivation is 80% L'Shem Shemayim, 20% for a little bit of feeling good. Yours is 90%, 95%. They had that insight of people to be able to tell as the donations were coming in. I don't know exactly how it worked. That because you're dealing with raw material. That's what the Meforshim say. I mean, again, you're trying to get Jews to donate. And this itself is probably the biggest miracle of all, is that they gave so much they actually had to say, no more. Can you imagine? They had B'Tzalel came to Hashem and said, put out an announcement, don't bring any more. And one of the reasons that they're so eager to give is what David said earlier, because the Mishkan has got an eternal effect, even if it doesn't exist in its physical state. It's got an eternal effect. I want a piece of eternity. And that's why, do you know that it's much easier to get people to donate to build a building than it is to pay for the maintenance and the upkeep? Much easier. Because, build a building, you put up a plaque and you see what you did and so on and so forth. But when it comes to maintenance and upkeep, that's much more difficult. Does anybody here fluent in Hebrew? Anybody here fluent in Hebrew? Huh? Somebody, I need a cab. And he said, are you fluent enough? Okay, tell the guy I need the cab to come to Ohr Somayach. He may call you back. He may call you back in just to let you know that he's here. But just tell him I need a cab now at Ohr Somayach. 5866666. 58 and then 5 6s. And by the way, just to let everybody know that I'm going to the United States on Wednesday. I'll be away on Wednesday till the following Wednesday, so there won't be shir on the Parshat shir. Won't somebody else will be giving the Parshat shir here, but it won't be on the video. What's that? For now? Yeah. Now there's one more idea here. There's one more idea. Tell them a Mercedes, please. There's one more. There's one more idea. I like them. There's one more idea, which is the medrash on this pasuk. The medrash goes off sometimes on a springboard. The medrash says on the first pasuk, "V'yichlu li truma." The medrash quotes the pasuk, "Ki lekach tov nasati lachem." I have given you a good teaching. Torasi al ta'azovu. Do not forsake my Torah. Ki lekach tov nasati lachem torasi al ta'azovu. Now, what's that?
This Wednesday till next?
Next one, yeah, this Wednesday till the next one, yeah. So Hashem says to the Jewish people, the Medrash connects it to the first pasuk, because the first pasuk says, V'yichlu, they shall take. And the pasuk says, Ki lekach tov nasati lachem. I have given you a good lekach. A lekach means a piece of merchandise. And the Medrash speaks at this, the Medrash goes into the best merchandise in the world is what? Torah. Torah is the best merchandise in the world. There is no merchandise like Torah. So tomorrow, in Mirz Hashem, we'll talk about what the Torah is and why the Torah is called the best merchandise. But again, I'm not going to be here. Somebody will be giving this year. Somebody else will be giving this year for the week. I'm going to Chicago. What do you say, Mike? 025. Oh, you got to call it 02. 5 6s. Yeah. I'm a technological whiz. All right, we'll see.